In the not-too-distant future, the game of Texas Hold'em poker has evolved. This enhanced format of the game, as well as the secret location where the largest annual tournament is held, is called Western Tropic. Hi, I'm Len, creator of past Kickstarter projects including the party game Devil's Advocate and the exploration notebook Cartogram. I'm also the proud owner of this French bulldog named Gizmo. But more importantly, I'm one of the 100 million people worldwide who enjoy playing poker, and someone who wanted to put a creative spin on it. Western Tropic uses a 5x5 grid that acts as a communal but ever-changing set of cards that players can use to create the best possible poker hand. Much like Texas Hold'em, each player has hole cards that are unique to them. But Western Tropic is different because it uses an extra hole card that can be traded in to grant various actions such as moving your character around the grid or changing the grid altogether. Each suit gives you different abilities, and those can be used in clever ways to improve your hand or obstruct others. There are also 8 secret jokers that provide additional chaos during gameplay. For me, when you take the money out of poker, one of the most exciting parts of the actual game is achieving that perfect hand. Drawing that one card you need to complete the set is a great feeling, and that's the focus of Western Tropic. It's less about bluffing and more about strategy. This Kickstarter will help finalize the custom artwork and allow me to produce a volume of games that will make each set more affordable. I've been working with 2 fantastic artists to complete the custom poker deck and the overall artwork for the game, and have secured a production company that will deliver a high quality and compact set of components for you to enjoy. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you soon in Western Tropic.
Wow. Did you just Willy Wonka everybody? Did you just golden ticket?
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need, but you deserve. And where all levels of nerd are welcome. We are doing a little something different today.
How different?
It's so different. We're going like way off the tracks. We are featuring a friend of mine, Len. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Len and I, we actually met gaming. Well, tabletop gaming. We were doing this outrageously long, like kind of RPG campaign thing that went on for months.
Over a year.
Over a year.
Yeah. Kind of wanted it to end a little sooner than it did.
It was like a Cthulhu-based type thing. But
Why is Len here today?
Len is here because he is, or has been for a very long time, and is at the point of basically release, kind of. You got your Kickstarter going for a game called Western Tropic. Boop, boop. Which is a card game, which is fun. But I totally skipped the housekeeping because we got to do that. I'm Josh.
I'm Tom.
And this is Len.
Hello.
And this episode is brought to you in part by our patrons over at Patreon. The Nerd On Nation powers everything that we do, and we are so excited to have everybody along for the ride. If you are new to what Patreon is, it is a membership service in which you can support your favorite creators like Nerd On, and in return, you get fun stuff like there's a Discord server, there's discounts on merch, there's early access to episodes, there's bonus episodes, there's a lot. There's just a lot. So check it out, nerdon.io/Patreon. But yeah, that is the housekeeping.
That's it. It's just us two.
Just to be a good guest, so I'm clear, if I give you guys money, you will give me cool things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Clear.
What you want?
Plug for plug. You can hang out and talk with us. But also, you get never before heard episodes, and we just talk about the wildest things.
Wow.
It's the Wild West stuff.
Yeah.
None of the other hosts today. Because this is a bonus.
This is a bonus episode. I wanted to bring on Len because he's a friend of mine, but he's also been he's been supportive of the show.
You're all that he talks about. He's like, I got this really cool friend named Len, and I wish I just did this podcast with him.
Did the other host not show up because they heard I was coming on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. But we have more room.
Well, one you is 3 of them, so it's like, that's
exactly.
The ratio's still even.
Yeah, but Len's just been a good friend of the show and a good friend to me, so I just wanted to, with this game coming out, I mean, the Kickstarter, what day did it launch?
It launched just over a week ago, and I'm happy to report that it's fully funded as of last weekend.
Woo!
Yeah. So thank you. I'm very happy, and I've got 15 days left, and really excited to share it with more people and just see that ticker go up, because the higher the amount I raise, the more cool stuff I can throw into the final game.
See that Founders Edition? I see that.
That is the Founders Edition. Yeah, the normal game is going to be $25 and be super cool, but I'm going to make a limited run of those boxes right there where the game will go inside of it.
You gotta love those kind of things with the packaging of games, and like I've loved board games. Like I was a kid that just like was raised on Risk for a long time. I mean, obviously when I was like a toddler, it was like Sorry and like Uno, but then later on it was like Risk, and then like Axis of Allies, and then later on became Settlers of Catan, and then like more and then like all the different types of games, and how like Secret Hitler has a really nice box. And I was like, if you got a really nice box, you know you're gonna get like a really good game out of it. So it's
and I've been really surprised that when people have Kickstarter campaigns and they have sort of cheaper, lower cost rewards, those are less popular. People like the really expensive special edition stuff. And I've seen that more people have backed that than the actual standard game edition, which I'm happy about.
It's like the Jumanji feel, you know? It's oh, there's something beautiful to have like this like beautiful, it's like a beautiful chess set.
That's
you
right.
know? It's like, it's a collector's edition.
So before we get too far into Western Tropic, let's talk a little bit about you. So we met tabletop gaming. So I'm assuming that, and you developed a game yourself. So I'm going to assume here that you're into tabletop gaming.
That is correct. I was into it when it was called board gaming.
Oh dang!
And then that was not cool anymore. And then tabletop became the phrase for it.
It had to be more official.
Yeah.
I think tabletop is the cool internet phrase.
I think so.
Like when you're going around like with friends who like don't like video games or don't go like going out, it's like, how about some board games? They're like, oh, that sounds like fun. And it's like family goodness, but it's like, no, we're going to play some intense stuff.
Yeah. It's the vinyl record to album to whatever. That's tabletop. But I think when I've been marketing this thing, I usually say board games because most people don't know what tabletop gaming is. It's like, wait, but where else would you play the game?
On the floor?
On the floor?
Floor gaming?
Yeah.
On the floor gaming.
Yeah. But I mean, it's gotten the industry of tabletop gaming has really gone through a renaissance, and it feels like every week, especially with Kickstarter, there's hundreds and hundreds of these games coming out.
Yeah.
And Catan was my sort of gateway drug as well. But I think when I was younger, playing Scrabble and Sorry and Risk and those types of games, I always found myself critiquing them and trying to fix them. So I think that was part of the bug of like, well, I should design my own game that other people can complain about and say isn't good enough.
You're an equal complainer opportunity kind of person.
Constructive criticism, Yeah.
But also it gets the chance that you're the one that's messing everything up versus like, oh, I have no control over this.
Yeah.
Like someone else messed it up before I could.
And it's funny, the stakes seem even higher with physical games. Like, a lot of big companies release video games and you can patch them if there's something wrong. But if you print 1,000, 5,000 copies of something and you got a typo, whoops, that's it.
Ooping.
I mean, like even with typos, like to me, those are small things. But like, if I can critique one Risk specifically, if you had 5 people playing, you can die before your next turn.
Yeah.
And I really did not like the activeness that you had in that game. And from what I saw of this one, like there's a lot of good chances of like you interacting with like the board, and so you're not just left out while someone's making like a 30-minute decision.
That's right. Are you jumping ahead to talking about the game?
I'm just saying it out loud because, like, again, plug for plug. But no, like board games, like you said, I think it's coming through like a golden age a bit, and like we're getting so many different types of games from different creators and developers.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting to see like the blend of like video games. I'm assuming you like some video games as well.
I do, yeah. And I think what's interesting to see if we kind of zoom out a little bit is with video games, the most popular games are super competitive, right? Fortnite is every man for himself, everyone for himself.
Yeah.
Call of Duty, everyone is going against each other. And with board games, the more popular ones are now either more cooperative or somebody is trying to score next to somebody else, but it's not like everyone's a loser. Everyone's still racking up points and winning in their own way. So there's kind of this interesting split that's happening in video games versus tabletop games.
And there's an interesting thing with the cooperative games that like there's a traitor amongst them because you still have that camaraderie, but there's still that level of like, I don't trust you. But I know Josh for a fact like hates being the traitor.
I can't do it.
You just can't lie.
You can't have the poker face on.
Parents raised him well.
It's like, the game starts, it's me.
I mean, that's we used to, when Nerd On first started, we were playing some games, some tabletop board games, and there were a couple of games that were that. They were that.
Shadows of Camelot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just it's seriously first round, everybody would be like, oh no, I knew first round that it was you.
Yeah.
And then like we were playing this game, it's based on The Thing.
Outpost.
And Outpost 31, and I was trying to figure out how to do this. Because in that game, there's kind of a traitor. You're it.
Yeah. And it's a lot of pressure. You don't want to ruin the game for everybody.
Yeah.
You want to show them a good time. So you got to like put up the persona and, act the part. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it just, it's a lot of pressure.
No, I mean, but also going to your point, Len, about video games or gaming in its entirety, like team sports, physical activity, video games. Whenever there's like teams, you always have that pressure of like, oh, I'm going to let the team down. I'm going to have the one with the lowest scoreboard. And it's kind of tough. But with the board game, there is that nice intimacy. And like, I know there's like this kind of outcry for like more couch co-op video games too. And, I think that's why like Mario Party will never die because like you could play with somebody next to you, or Mario Kart, those kind of things. But like with PlayStation or Xbox, it's kind of like you got to go play online, and these are only single player campaigns, and you're playing like these special things with like other people. But like with board games, it's like reminds me, bring the game over, bring the console.
Yeah,
over,
yeah, and you've seen a lot of tabletop games get ported to video games or iPad, and that's fine and that's fun. But I think that personally, I don't love that because I like sitting in front of somebody playing against somebody.
Yeah.
That's the point of that experience.
It's like writing on paper. It's like you have this physical thing that you're doing. No, it also thinking about it, it seems like tabletop games versus video games. It seems like there's a lot more cooperative tabletop games than there are video games nowadays.
I think so. Yeah.
You don't hear stories about internet trolls with board games. You don't hear like
That's
fifth
true.
graders like, hey, where'd you learn how to play Monopoly? It's like, okay, come on.
I think I don't know the deep history of it, but my understanding is that Germany was really into board games, and they started building a lot of these cooperative games because coming out of World War II, they didn't want to have these like competitive games where people were battling each other and fighting each other. They wanted to have peaceful games. And I think they led the charge on designing all these games. And I think Catan is from Germany. And so you had this game where it's a little bit competitive, but really you're just trying to score the best you possibly can.
Yeah. Either what is the longest road, the biggest army,
That's
or
right.
just trading the most resources. I love the resource management kind of games too, because it's very much more like, am I playing the long game? Am I just like, chaotic neutral and just effing everyone up? So it's like,
I mean, even games like video games I remember in the past, like Age of Empires and Command and Conquer. My favorite parts of those games actually were building the cities, and I got annoyed by having to fight. So nowadays you have lots of games like League of Legends where it's just the fighting part and there's no building. So I always kind of would lean towards like SimCity, Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Have you ever played Civilization?
No, but definitely familiar. It's like it's like Age of Empires without the fighting, basically.
I am like a bad addict with it. It always comes back. It's like, I shouldn't go back to that icky tar, but I am. And it's like, but that's all it is. Like you start at 2000 BC and you're one of the like famous rulers of time, and then you build a civilization. But it sucks when like barbarians attack you. You're like, come on! I'm just trying to build a good culture savvy civilization. Like I just want to have all the culture in there. Like
I want it to be equal
because that's how you win. You win by science, military, culture, or religion. And so like there's different ways you could win, and like there's like mods you can put. So I like put like Cthulhu in there. So it's like I'm winning by religion.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, like, but it's kind of like you're saying, going back to like how board games get ported over to video games. It's like taking those small intricacies of like I would say game dynamics or game mechanics of like how the player and other players interact with it when the game like works back with you.
Yeah. I will say for both video games though and tabletop games, it's done a good job, especially in recent years for me at least personally, and for a lot of other people. It's done a good job of just kind of removing you from social media and internet culture and all that, so you kind of can disconnect.
Which is important.
Which is important,
100%.
yeah. So even if people say like playing video games or playing tabletop games isn't disconnecting or isn't necessarily like valuable time, I think just removing yourself from kind of the chatter and the noise, that's a good thing.
I've been told I'm like a bloodthirsty hound.
He is.
I love board games because it is, and I'm not trying to jump the subject, but like it is like poker because it's like you're just mental fortitude against other people.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know what you do or how you do it. And then other people just like, sometimes they understand like, oh, people know how I play, so I have to do something different.
Yes.
And I love that because it is different than like hand-eye coordination with the video game. It's a different.
It's mental dexterity versus physical.
I love that. I absolutely love that because, and then also you have fun with it too, right? You can have it with snacks, you have it with drinks, you have it with like a show that's on, and so like you're kind of multitasking. It's like there's some social ability with it, but then also like if you want to go super in it, you could like light up the candles, turn out the lights, get the ambiance going.
Get them hue lights
Yeah,
rocking.
like there's a lot you can do with it. And I think that's the great thing about like the, tangible games you could bring in.
Yeah, and it kind of slows you down as well. You can see people's like testosterone and levels like rising when they're playing certain types of games. This is kind of it calms you down. It's like the golf of gaming.
Yeah, but I
it's a
mean,
little bit slower
because also then like you want to have a good game.
Yeah.
And it's not fun to just browbeat somebody when they don't know how to play.
That's
so
right.
you have that great like mentorship to like, oh, this is how you play. These are good strategies. This is a passive strategy. This is a very aggressive strategy and things like that. So like then you can then tell them like give them agency to like choose how you want to play.
Yeah, and I think this varies from person to person, but most games have a little bit of luck and a little bit of strategy, and
so much.
chess is all strategy, and then you've got games like Sorry, which is all luck, or Monopoly, which is mostly luck. I like a balance. I like a little bit of luck just because it's like real life. Like you don't know everything is going to happen.
You can plan
but
some
enough
things,
strategy.
but not everything.
I honestly would say if I were to have a child, thank goodness I don't. I would want them to be
do it right now.
Confirmed.
I'd want them to
Confirmed.
be lucky more than smart.
Oh,
Because I feel
okay.
like the smart people see all the luck happening and then it affects them. And sometimes
Wow.
they can't circumvent those odds. But
Yeah.
lucky people who are just like will blissfully fall into great things. And it's like, must be nice.
But
It's not a superpower.
But if the lucky person does have to be hit with adversity at some point,
they're not going to have anything to stand
right?
on.
That's like the classic Hollywood kid, right? Like,
100%.
oh, my parents have Ferraris and I
Yeah.
grew up in a mansion. That's just
And,
how it is, right?
I got in a car accident. I don't know what to do.
Uh-huh.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
well,
Oops. Okay.
you're lucky that you have money.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're lucky you got me as a parent, but no.
But I think I agree with you. Luck versus smarts.
Yeah,
If
it's
you have
tough.
to pick, and then just hope that it works out.
Yeah, hopefully, because you can't teach luck.
No.
You could teach intelligence.
That's true.
Nah.
That's very true.
This
Breaking
got-
ground
this
here,
got
nerd.
really deep.
Pulling it back, I mean, other than this board game, I'm assuming this has been your life for like years and months that you've been preparing for this Kickstarter and developing it. What else do you nerd on about?
I love movies. I love video games as well.
Okay.
This is gonna sound weird. I love walking a lot,
Oh.
hiking and walking around.
What do you do when you hike
That
and
is
walk?
so weird, Len.
Yeah,
So weird.
especially in LA. People usually are just inside, not doing anything outside. Yeah, it's kind of my thinking time, and it's sort of my separation between work and personal projects and downtime, right? Like it's my division in the day.
That is 100. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's not weird at all. I think that's
Yeah.
100% normal. I was a monk for a while, and then everyone, because I'm like kind of crazy and chaotic, and everyone's like, "How did you meditate?" And then I asked all my like master monk people who are teaching me like, "What's meditation?" And they're like, "You can do anything." I was like, "What do you mean you can do anything? That's crazy." And they're like, counting or just breathing or walking or
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
Like they say, even working out. It's like, are you focused on the one thing? Is it meditative?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah. And so now when I hear that, and every time I hear like great Hollywood stories of like JJ and like Max Landis talking about like making Star Wars Force Awakens.
I like
they-
you're on first name basis with JJ.
Yeah, JJ,
Great.
J Abrams, you know what I'm saying? But like they, most of the time writing the script, they were just walking on the beach. And it's like,
Yeah.
Inside Out was like, he was hiking up a hill and he was just like thinking and meditating about like emotional journeys. And it's like, walking, everyone at home, I don't know if you know this, but walking is good for you.
Yeah. So can I consider walking to be meditation? Because I've tried like the apps that make you legit
Like
meditate, and
Headspace and all that.
it's not
Yeah,
working for me.
yeah.
I can't do it.
I mean, honestly, I think if it finds your place, like I actually really like long drives on boring streets and all
Mhm,
stuff. Like I like driving on the 5 and no one likes driving on the 5. But it's like, it's that time where you can kind of push everything away and then
Yeah.
kind of feel like a little bit more spiritually elevated of like, like I'm at a place where like past and future kind of don't matter. And like what matters right now is like my breathing and me getting to the next place.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's to each their own because I mean, I'm not very good at meditation, and so sometimes those apps, especially like the guided meditation ones, they really help. But
yeah.
I can see how walking would
100%.
definitely be.
Yeah, I think I'm just gravitating towards things, especially recently, that make me disconnect from technology. So riding motorcycle, woodworking with like power tools,
Oh.
like none of these things you can have a smartphone on you.
Yeah.
And I think that just disconnecting, it forces me to like think, and then I just have my ideas pop up in those moments.
Yeah.
Some people have that in the shower,
Mhm.
but I don't want to shower 6 hours a day. So,
Getting away from the black
skin's
man.
really dry. So yeah, that's kind of where I've been nerding out a little bit. I have more access today than ever to movies and TV, but I've pulled away a little bit. It's almost like an overwhelming amount of choice at this point with
It
what to
is.
watch.
Yeah.
So I want to nerd out on that, but I kind of have I can't anymore. I don't know what to, I can't like invest time into watching something because then I'm going to be nervous about, well, if I'm putting in time into watching this movie, I could be watching a better movie.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I just don't watch
But there's
anything.
other options. Like when my
Yeah.
wife and I, when we sit down, we're like, okay, we're gonna watch a movie, and then you start like looking around, and you're like, that one's good. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, but what about? Okay, what kind of movie do you want to watch?
Yeah. I mean, I got to the point where if a movie is less than 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, I won't even consider it.
Ah,
Yeah,
Rotten
which I don't
Tomatoes
know.
follower.
I mean, I don't know how legit you guys think that is, but I can't even risk it anymore.
Not we can start a conversation, but I've been like the number one like against Rotten Tomatoes
Ooh.
because like I would say in interesting times where it's like audience score versus critic score, like what says what, it's different and it's an aggregate. So like it's tough because you're getting critics to saying yes or no. And then that generates a number. And then depending on like what number it is, and even with numbers in itself, it's like, what's the difference between a 71 and a 73? And
Yeah.
it's not that much. What's the difference between a 51 and a 49? Rotten or not?
Yeah, and who gets to decide if this review that has both good and bad is ultimately a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a good or a
I've
bad
seen
thing?
reviews that are 3-star that
Uh-huh.
are that are quote unquote rotten.
I see.
And I was like, technically that's a 60%. Technically that's a pass. And it's like, I don't know where the falling line with it, because we rate things all the time, and we're kind of like whose lines anyways, votes don't matter and all that stuff. But it's like we'll rate this movie 1 out of 5, and if it's a 3, it's like we didn't hate it.
Yeah.
And it's really tough because I think, online, like you're talking about, like that need to disconnect. It's tough because there's so much vitriol sometimes about like this movie's garbage, or like the release, the critics said this. And it's like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, review bombing. People don't like
Yeah.
a certain person in a movie,
well,
and
it's,
they'll
it's
Yeah.
kind of like I always say, like, you can't get it right unless you get it wrong. So kind of why don't you go out and try it out and see what you think? Because you don't know. Because I will say this, like I love a lot of the rotten movies, but like also
Well,
they
because
make
sometimes you need a good bad movie.
well, they make $1 billion too, and it's like, well, they're not going away either. So it's
Yeah.
like, what are we really winning? And I mean, I've heard a lot of writers from like films that are saying like, we don't make these for the critics, we make these for the audience. And so it's like, there is a sense of like, I know critics before, and I think to your point, would write reviews mainly to save people money. And so people would like, oh, don't go watch this movie because it's not
Yeah.
worth the money, because like money was scarce. And like
Sure.
for theaters, it'd be escapism. And so like their money was like, I can't spend, like
Yeah.
what we do for our show, we watch movies every weekend most of the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not good, sometimes they're great. And it's like, well, we can't do that unless we have like Movie Pass or Stubs, AMC Stubs list or A-list.
Yeah, I signed up for that, and I'm still only seeing like one a month. I'm not
Wait,
taking
are you on-
advantage of it.
Are you on Movie Pass or on
The
A-list?
AMC
Okay.
A-list. Yeah, I
I'm
think
on
Movie
that.
Pass is done.
It apparently officially is done. By the time we're recording it, like I was a big. I think I helped make.
So
the-
Movie Pass will not be a sponsor of the show.
No.
Okay.
I wanted it to be so bad, but no, yeah, I watch a movie every week, but because I wanted to take advantage of it. But yeah, no.
Yeah, I have this other thing too, where once you're in the movie theater, if it's a bad movie, you can't just turn it off and walk out.
Yeah.
I can't be that person.
True.
I know people walk out of movies all the time, but
I've done it
I
a
can't.
couple of times in my life.
Ooh, yeah.
I've never been, because I like to think I grew up broke. Not poor, because poor is a mental state,
Yes.
right? But like I grew up broke, and my parents were like, no, we're sitting and watching it. Like, okay, yes, mom,
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Well, based on that, you should go to another movie while you're already checked in, because
This is
once you're in there,
true.
so.
Yeah.
But then that would be sort of illegal.
illegal.
I mean, or
Is
at least
it?
ethically questionable, not illegal, probably.
Probably morally questionable.
Yeah.
I mean, all these studios do have faces.
Have you ever crashed movies? Bought a ticket for one movie
I
and
don't.
then
I plead the
yeah.
fifth.
and then
Uh,
like kind of continued watching movies but never got caught.
I plead the
Yeah,
fifth.
I did that as a teenager for sure. Because
Yeah.
you can't really do anything as a teenager other than see movies.
My theater was
You know.
right across from a Walmart, so is that or the
Yeah.
Walmart.
Mhm.
Hanging out at
Yeah.
Walmarts.
Yeah.
But what is there any movies that you've been watching you're interested in lately, or you seen?
So this weekend, I saw a very old movie for the first time, The Night of the Living Dead.
Whoa,
Which,
Romero?
Never have seen it before.
Classic.
And was basically forced to watch it. I always thought it was going to be this cheesy kind of horror flick, and it was not that at all. It was about so many socially
yeah.
relevant things. Race in America, the Cold War, how humans treat each other.
Isn't it
Wasn't super
great?
scary at all. It was amazing.
Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
I loved it.
I love that when like technically older films, and that's really easy to say at hindsight. It's like they're actually trying to say something,
Yeah.
and they're trying to have a message about like our socioeconomic position.
Yeah, and it meant something different when it was filmed versus today, but
Yeah.
it was amazing. The only thing that really bugged me about it, it was obviously cheesy and low production.
100.
Whenever they fired a gun in that movie, it sounded really quiet.
Oh.
I don't know if you remember when you saw it, but it was just like a little pellet gun. Bing. So whenever somebody got shot, it was so much less dramatic than it is today, where, there's like a cannon going off and people are just blown away. So that was a little
But
anticlimactic.
What if that's what they wanted?
Maybe.
That out of the audience noises of like the world politics, that a gunshot is the quietest thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just
Wow.
blowing smoke.
Wow.
I mean, that's crazy.
think
Well,
You're
I
getting
think
heavy and deep.
I think of like older.
They couldn't
film-
afford the FX for the gunshot.
Well, because I think about older films and like bang, it's like huge. It sounds like it just sounds like someone just like dropped like a metal bearing in a
Yeah,
bathroom.
the cowboy movies and all
Yeah.
that. Like, it wasn't that at
Not at
all.
all. Yeah.
Yeah,
It is a
but
little, I would say.
but that sort of renewed my interest in going backwards and going through like the IMDb 100 and watching all the movies that I still haven't seen.
So why was this forced?
Not forced, but just like had a movie night, somebody picked it, and
You're
I was
not
like-
going to be that guy.
yeah, it was like it's almost October, Halloween, so I was like, okay, yeah, cool. I'll if everyone's on board,
True.
I'm gonna watch something.
All right.
And it wasn't what I expected, and I really appreciated that.
Nice.
Yeah,
Is there a movie that you would have suggested to bring to the movie night
Mm.
instead?
Probably one of the Ernest movies, maybe Ernest Scares Stupid. That would be more
That's
appropriate for
an
Halloween.
Excellent.
Oh
decision.
man,
Thank you.
Ernest.
Thank you.
I remember when like all his movies were playing on Disney Channel. Like obviously
Yeah.
again they're past their time, but it's like for me, I'm a little bit younger on
Yeah.
the table. But it was like that was how I got my.
How many
Ernest.
are there? More than 2?
There are a lot.
I think there's at
Okay.
least 4
Okay.
because I
I
know for a
love
fact.
Ernest.
Like I watched like multiple, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, what's he doing in this one? And that's weird. Like to me, those
Ernest Goes to Camp.
that was like the first MCU, right? A universe.
The
built
Ernest
around-
MC.
Like
ECU. Yeah.
I was like, oh, like what's happening in this romp?
yeah.
Yeah. He that just resonates with me, like Halloween, time and just that character. And that's what popped into my head just now.
And it's a silly sense of humor. I
Yeah.
just always like,
Yeah. The modern day version of that is my sort of cheesy, I'm ashamed that I love it movie is Joe Dirt.
Oh,
Similar
okay.
kind of a little bit rednecky, a little stupid, but ultimately a hero.
keep
Yeah.
going on, or what's the mantra? Keep going on, keep doing to something.
I'm not that big of a fan of the movie to know every quote, but it's a good
Well,
one.
it's like keep going on, or something like
Yeah.
that. It's like a good positive thing, but it just like has bad grammar littered throughout. And it's like that's the kind of movie where it's like
Yeah.
there's a good heart in it.
Absolutely, yeah. And that just reminded me because of David Spade. I recently saw him at the Laugh Factory
Oh.
here. And
Oh, wow.
and I love going to live comedy. And since moving to LA about 4 years ago, that's something I've really
Really?
taken
It's only been
advantage
4
of.
years?
It's 4 years, yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I've been in LA
Of
longer than
course.
you have.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
But you guys knew each other before. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
moved from-
so you've been down down SoCal longer.
Yeah. So, I moved to Los Angeles, like to California 4 years ago or so. I lived and grew up in Chicago,
Oh.
and great city, great food. Plug in Chicago. Visit between April and November. It's
Okay.
fantastic,
All right.
but it's a little chilly.
I feel like in a weird way, like 30, at least a good 30% of LA inhabitants are from Chicago.
yeah, Chicago, New York, places that are colder, places where people just got tired of digging their cars out of the snow and sitting in the cold
just
waiting for the
occurred to me.
bus.
I know so many people
From
who are
Chicago.
from Chicago.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I think half the people in Los Angeles are not born here.
Oh,
Oh,
for
no.
sure.
This
This is a landing zone,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
everyone just has transplant on their like bios.
Yeah. But the thing that amazes me about this city in particular that maybe I still feel because I didn't grow up here is just the amount of access to cheap entertainment and famous people you have. It's like pay $10, go see this amazing comedian because
Yeah.
they're just trying out material.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But I mean, that's amazing. So like that's something that, if I have to pick between, say, going to a 2-hour movie or a 2-hour stand-up show, I kind of like that real tangible feeling of someone standing there. You feel it. You feel the laughter. I like that.
Yeah,
part.
it's kind of like a theater performance where like no
Yeah.
matter what, like even I've been to some comedy performances and even seen like terrible stand-ups,
Mhm.
and I was laughing a lot. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know
Yeah.
why I'm laughing a lot, but
Two
other
drink
people
minimum.
are. Maybe. I'm
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't say I'm a lightweight, but I'm like, I don't know. Maybe that was probably part of it.
LA has that strange experience too, where you're like, did I just see? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Oh,
saw that
I never
person.
see celebrities on the street. I'm always
yeah?
tunnel vision. I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah,
Yeah, I wish
That's how
I did.
they are
but
too,
no.
probably.
I was once pumping gas next to Corey Feldman.
Okay.
Oh,
I was
wow.
it was my motorcycle at the time, and I was in the tank, and I was just kind of looking around, and I was like, oh shit, that's Corey Feldman. Put my visor down, and I'm like,
So you're not the kind of guy who would go up to somebody and be like, "Hey,
it's
sort
really
of a big
hard.
fan."
I mean, because I also work in the entertainment industry, and I've done that once,
Mm.
and it was Mark Hamill,
Yeah.
and I was like, I am so sorry, but I have to do this.
I mean,
Can
Mark
you take a
Hamill.
picture?
Yeah.
Can you take a picture with me? I mean, I happen to be the assistant engineer on this.
So you had a little bit of pull.
I had a little bit of pull, but I was like, I'm just gonna.
Did he do it?
Yeah, no, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's
That,
pretty
I
dope.
always worry about that one because I feel like, are they feeling like dehumanized if you're just taking the photo and it's not even
Yeah.
about them? And
From like, and the funny thing about we're talking on a podcast about celebrities, and a lot of celebrities have podcasts, and I think what I've heard from a lot of celebrity people that they hate when you ask for a picture
Mhm.
and you don't even know who they are,
yeah,
and you just know that
Oh.
they're famous,
yeah.
and they're like, hey, you're that one.
You're that one
Where,
guy.
where is like you're, and then they say
I'll
the
figure it
wrong,
out later
they say
when
the
I post the
wrong
photo.
name or
Yeah.
something like that. Where it's like,
Oh.
I don't even really care. Like, I know someone would care if I took a picture with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're, obviously genuine with them and all that stuff. Like,
yeah.
I'm the person that loves to like, hey, real quick, big fan. Just want to say hi. My name is Tom. Blah blah. You probably won't remember it, but just hope you have a good rest of your day. Like
That's
I
it.
did that
Wow.
with Dakota Fanning.
Mhm.
Like I was at a cafe and she was right in front of me, and like she ordered, and then I heard her say her name like for the order number, and it was like Dakota. I was like, nah, can't be. And then I was actually with one of our co-hosts and we were having breakfast, and then like they went to go get a seat. They're like, Tom, come over here. I was like, no, I'm not. I have to say hi because that's what happens a lot of times. It's like people who live in New York never see the Statue of Liberty. So like when opportunity comes to just introduce yourself and say like, hey, I'm not crazy. I like your work, and I just want to give you props for that. And
Yeah.
I hope you have a good day. And that's to me like the bare minimum. The asking for a picture thing is kind of like the
I crossed
Can
the
I?
line.
Well,
broke a rule.
That's the like if I'm really comfortable, if I'm like, I gotta do it.
Yeah.
I gotta do it.
I have
think it's
to.
tough.
So I am going to drastically change the subject,
Ooh.
and we're going to talk about Western Tropic. We are here to discuss Western Tropic. You have been working on this for how many years?
1.5 years, which equals 18 months,
Mm.
according to math.
Good job. Good
Good
job.
one.
I
Good
think.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Math on.
And this isn't your first game, correct?
It's not my first game. I'm going to call it my third game. My last game I launched 5 years ago. It was called Devil's Advocate. Kind of a party game in the vein of Cards Against Humanity. I was one of those people who played Cards Against Humanity and thought, hey, I can make a party game too. And then I was one of the 10,000 people who did it.
Yeah.
And luckily it was successful, raised like $30,000 on Kickstarter and made the game. And that was the end of the run. But it was basically about trying to guess how your friends would think about certain things. So you would read a topic and then everybody would vote agree or disagree. And you would try to see what the reader's real opinion was. But that was sort of my foray into game design, but I don't really call that a real game. I think that's more of like a conversation piece.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people consider that
like an
whole-
icebreaker
That's
game.
actually
It's
really
an
good for
icebreaker
corporate
game.
worlds.
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
have that for all the morning huddles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a game. It's an activity. I think for me, Western Tropic is my first real game that I designed. And ultimately, before I launched the Kickstarter, I wrote 40 versions of this game. So I kept
Whoa.
rewriting the rules. About halfway through is when it shifted to have elements of poker, because I reached a point of designing this game where I wasn't having fun playing it anymore. And I thought about what games have I spent the most time in my life playing. That took me to card games, and then it took me to poker. And so it's not necessarily a poker game, but it uses the language of poker and infuses poker into it.
Flush, full house.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is it isn't super competitive, last man standing like poker is, but it's more like I'm going to score as many points as I possibly can and pull in elements of things that you see in other tabletop games.
Nice.
Yeah, so after version 40 or so, I said kind of, okay, that's it. Now I'm going to make this the game. These are the final rules, and I'm going to launch this thing.
How did you? So I mean, you've had board games. You've played board games. Now you've developed board games. What was there? So other than the Cards Against Humanity, would you say that was your deciding factor? Like, I want to start making board games, or want to start making games?
That was kind of what made me explore what it takes to make a game, right? Producing it, how much it costs, getting prototypes made, cutting out cards, that kind of thing. Again, even though that wasn't really a game, in my opinion.
But it got you in that.
But it got
idea.
me into that, yeah. And then
It's in the realm.
that was sort of a gateway into actually playing more games. I didn't play that many games before.
Market
It's-
research.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's research.
Yeah. And I still don't, to be honest. I think I wish I played more. You open up someone's closet and there's like 100 board games in there.
We have a friend.
Yeah. That's not me. I mean, I've got 10, 15. But, playing more games and then just wanting to I've always had sort of creative side projects. And because I never wanted to learn how to code, I knew that I wasn't going to be building an app or building anything with tech. So I was like, what can I build that requires a lot of different skills that also is kind of cool and fun and I can do in my downtime. And game design was sort of the perfect fit. It requires writing, designing, producing things. So it was
a lot of different aspects, and there's a lot of different roads you can
That's
take. Like
really
Yeah.
interesting.
the tabletop world, I think, especially with platforms like Kickstarter, has made it not only accessible to people like you, like I have an idea and I want to do this thing, but also really just if you can think it, it can probably be a thing. I mean, when you do have things like Zombicide, when you do have all these very interesting games that are out there that have different elements, board pieces, game pieces, or just as simple as a card game that is, would you say Western Tropic is, because I haven't actually gotten to see it played, is it a complicated game or is it pretty?
I'd say on the scale of 1 to 10, it's probably a 4.
Okay.
I would say
What's a 10?
a 10 would be something like the game Dominion
Oh, okay.
or I don't
Okay.
know, or like Warhammer or something. Like I basically a 10 would be a game that takes over an hour to explain the rules.
And there's multiple expansions.
And there's multiple expansions. So I would say you could learn this game in about 15 minutes. I'd say it's as complicated as teaching someone how to play poker.
Got it.
The good thing is though, if you already know how to play poker, half the instructions are going to be, streamlined for
So
you.
fold on a 2 and 7.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Yeah. I mean, building a game off of a language that people already know is really helpful. And I think people do that all the time. It's like, oh, you kind of get this mechanic. Well, here's another game that uses that. And
It's elevation.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, it's a card game. You can learn it in about 20 minutes. Every piece is cards. I thought a lot about like, do I have poker chips in it? But basically I wanted to keep it compact and
Contained.
light. And cheaper to produce, to be honest. Poker
Yeah.
chips are very expensive.
Wow.
Yeah, like
So you
25
looked
cents a
at all
piece.
the, you looked at
yeah.
all the,
Looked at lots of options, but it's all cards, and basically you're using a lot more strategy than luck. In poker, there is luck. Obviously, people think there's strategy because you can read your opponents and bluff and lie and all that. This is less about that, and it's more about using the different cards and powers you have to manipulate a game board, which has a set of community cards, and then you just assemble the best possible hand you can throughout the game.
Ah.
So it's scoring points each round. Everyone is kind of racking up a high score, trying to reach 60 points. You can kind of mess with other people, mess up the board, mess up what they're trying to do, but it's not like directly attacking. And
I'm just doing what's best for me.
I'm just doing
sorry
what's
that
best
it
for me.
affected your.
That's right.
That's what I always say about competitive games. I'm like, hey, you're not hurting them. You're just trying to help you.
That's right. Yeah. But, honestly, when I first started designing the game, it was very much I'm going to roll dice and shoot you and harm you this many times. And the theme lends itself to that, right? It's like the Western cowboy theme, lots of shooting. The reason I started designing with dice was because a 6-shooter revolver, 6-sided die.
Oh, yeah.
But I moved away from that as soon as I switched to poker. And so I kept the theme. I like the theme, and it's sort of this...
But poker is also a staple of the Wild Wild West.
Of the
too.
Wild Wild West, yeah. And the Western Tropic theme was kind of a combination of two things I like, which is I was really inspired at the time by Westworld, so kind of the Western
Okay.
theme.
Yeah.
And then I really like tiki culture. So I was like, what if I combine these two things? What would that look like? So the very loose storyline is basically this eccentric billionaire has bought up an island in the Pacific, and he has transformed it into a Wild West town. But everyone who plays now is kind of a modern day person. They're going to this tournament sort of in cosplay. Like if
That's
Comic-Con,
who we are.
Yeah. Like Comic-Con meets Burning Man meets like the World Series of Poker. That's sort of the theme.
Okay.
All happening in modern times.
A little bit of Mortal Kombat.
A little bit of Mortal Kombat.
Going to an
yeah.
island. It has me. Okay. That's dope.
Cue the music from the movie.
Yeah, right.
Do you remember the lightning moment where you were like, this, I want to start doing this game? Like, were you playing a game where did it just like hit you? Was it on one of your walks? Was it like?
I'm definitely one of those people, especially with game design, but with other things too, where I think of kind of a theme or a mood or an idea, and then I figure out the mechanics of
What
it
lives
later.
inside of it?
Okay.
I'm guessing most people who design games, they think of a fun mechanic first and then they come up with a theme, but that's not me. So I fell in love with the theme of Western Tropic, and then I kept iterating, which is why I had 40 versions of the game until I found a game that I liked that would fit into it. And to be honest, when people design games, they can skin it with a lot of different themes.
Yeah.
But I was theme first. So that's what got me motivated. And then the challenge was, okay, you've invested a lot of heart and money into like this art into designing this game or this theme, find the right game that fits for you. So yeah,
you figured out the what, but then the journey was the how.
Yeah,
which how you were going to do this.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's the most efficient way to design anything.
It's your way,
but it's my way, and I've always treated this as a hobby, as a side project. And to your point about Kickstarter, kind of lowering the barrier of entry. If you wanted to make a game before, you had to go to a publisher, and ultimately you probably had to make game design your full-time job. But if you want to design a game as kind of like a weekend project and just maybe raise a couple $1,000 or make a few thousand copies instead of 100,000, you can do that. And I really appreciate those kind of platforms, whether it's Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and with Patreon, what you guys use, that kind of helps fund things to continue projects along the way. So it's really great. Like the internet has done some bad stuff, but overall, I think it's done some really good stuff. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes.
Where did you decide to land on 3 to 8 players?
3 to 8 players. Yeah. So that was inspired at first by having 8 players that are the 4 kings and the 4 queens in a deck of cards.
Oh.
So ultimately, those were the original characters. So there are 4 female and 4 male players in the game. All sort of old timey Western sort of themes. You know, the rustler, the preacher, all that.
Shout out to representation. I like that.
Yeah. It's and you'll see in the characters, you know, they look a little bit atypical for kind of a Wild West scene, which I liked.
Yeah.
But the 3 to 8 is trying to have as much of a span as possible. I will say that at 8, it's quite chaotic, and at 3, there's not as much strategy. So 4 to 6 is really perfect. And I'll note that in the instructions that, you know, your best experience is going to be 4 to 6, but it's definitely possible to play with 3 to 8. And heck, if people want to manipulate the rules and make it their own, like I did for other games, I encourage that.
No, I only asked because we, you know, on Nerd On, we stream our, you know, games, and we've been playing video games and we do board games, and it's been tough sometimes to find some games that are like 5 or more players. And
they're all like party games, basically.
Yeah, and like even console games where it's like 4 couch co-op and that's it, versus like trying to find a game that like everyone could kind of play at the same time, which is like if you have anyone more than 5. And I think goes back to a little bit the video game conversation of like sometimes, you know, you have friends over and you literally just isolated 3 other ones because it's a 4-player game. But then when you have a 3 to 8, you're like, all right, cool, people can play and people can dip out and all that
there
stuff.
There are options
to
do it.
I think that's great. I don't know if there's even a lot of board games that do like more than 8 players. I think that's kind of
I don't think I've encountered something like that, other than like, you know, D&D and sort of those types of games. But like, you know, board games with components and whatnot, it gets hard for everyone to try to reach in the middle and do all that. You know, Western Tropic is similar to poker, where you could have quite a few people around a table accessing the same amount of information and cards in the center of the table, and then what you have in front of you is pretty minimal. So that makes it pretty easy.
And it goes back to I literally think of like poker as in like, you know, families come over and they're different families, and all like the dudes go into the garage and smoke all the stogies and like play poker, where all the wives are just like, those guys aren't doing anything. And I honestly feel like with the 3 to 8 players, like, yeah, I can imagine like that amount of people like that are around like one of those home little poker tables that have like the little curb sides and stuff like that. It's like, you know, 3 to 8 is like I think that's a perfect like amount of players to play new games nowadays.
So this is your brainchild, and obviously it takes a village. So you have more people involved, like designers and other companies and whatnot. Like the designers, was this something that you found an artist on Instagram or something like that, or was it you knew this person, you knew their style? Like how did the actual physical thing come about, like the design of it and all that? Because I know that you have said that you like kind of that amalgamation of Western and tiki culture, but now it's actually the you got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And because I was sort of theme first, I of course jumped into artwork sooner than I probably should have, but in a way that helped me out because it made the game feel more real and encouraged me to design the mechanics. But it was a lot of Instagram searching on ArtStation, kind of going around and trying to find the vibe, the feel that I wanted. So 2 artists in particular that you know, did a bulk of the artwork. One is Brooks Engel. Shout out to Brooks. He's out of Denver, and he did a lot of the card art, and he has that really beautiful sort of vector style. So all the playing cards are designed by him. And then the character art and the environment and the box art is an artist named Antonio Stapertz out of Brussels. And he is fantastic. And yeah, it was a lot of just searching on Instagram, reaching out to 10 or 20 artists, asking them, you know, about their rates, about their experience, their interest in games. and ultimately landing on a few that I thought was a good balance of, price versus output. And I saw the whole range, right? It was, really inexpensive to expensive, and I kind of landed in the middle. And to be honest, I was lucky to work with these artists because I think they really connected with the theme quickly and gave me their
I was like,
all.
that's the big thing too.
Yeah. If they're just treating it like a job,
Mhm.
it's fine. They'll do a good job. But I think when they're passionate about what you're trying to build and they know that you're doing it as like a passionate project as well, they give you a little extra. So a lot of people helped put this game together, but those two guys definitely contributed the most, and I continue to plug them and will recommend them. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then did you already have a knowledge of, because there's also the making of the game, like the
Yeah.
physical, like did you already have these companies in mind? Like, I want to work with this company to actually make my game, or
Yeah, it was a lot of research and getting quotes from companies both in America and in China,
Yeah.
to get an understanding of what can they do for what price. I'm in an interesting situation now because I'm mid Kickstarter that's going to end in October, and I'm delivering the game in February. And the company I'm working with will probably produce the game in China to keep prices low. But there might be some tariffs that are coming out that soon will make the price higher.
Yeah.
So I'll have to factor that into it. But yeah, no, I mean it's kind of like whenever you're buying anything expensive, you do your research and you get an understanding for who's asking the right questions, what games have they made before, what is the per unit cost, all that sort of thing. And then when you figure that out, then you kind of decide, okay, well, how much can I sell this thing for? And what's the quality I need to make people happy? And the part that's a little scary still is, okay, I raised all this money on Kickstarter, and now I'm going to produce this thing, and I'm hoping that the final product is exactly what I imagined. They'll send me a prototype, and that's fine. But when there's 1,000 pieces, and maybe later you realize that, hey, this one thing was off, or the quality that was in the prototype that they sent you wasn't quite the one
Ugh.
that's always scary. And I'm working with a company called Ad Magic, and they've made
Magic.
thousands of games, so I trust them. The salespeople are here in the U.S. and they work with
that's great.
Producers in China. But yeah, it's a lot of work, and honestly, that's the unsexy part, right? It's like finding
Yeah.
the
But
artist
it's
and getting
really
all that
interesting,
done.
like you were mentioning, like
Yeah.
it's really
It's
interesting.
what Mr. Rogers would talk to us about when we were kids.
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like being in the entertainment industry in a sense, where it's like you watch a movie, but you're like, no, something went into this. There's these jobs and board games. When I think about it, it really is interesting to think about how much goes into it. It's the initial idea, it's the design, and then there's the actual distribution or production of the game, and then there's the sales part, and then there's all this like.
Yeah.
There's so many
That's
aspects.
kinda
but
why-
it's kind of interesting.
It is, and it kind of kills me whether it's a video game or a board game or anything that's creative, has one thing kind of go wrong at launch and everybody just piles on and
Rides
creams
it.
it. And sometimes there's a big company that releases something and it's it deserves some of the hate. But I also try to stop and remember, like, there's thousands of people who are
Who
just
worked
like
so
rendering art and creating things, and they're innocent here.
I think about the story or the image of like, or I think it was like the little article that I think Reddit posted was like, someone's job for a year and a half was to work on Batman's cape.
Yeah.
On
Make sure it
Arkham.
moves the
And I was
right
just
way.
like, one job for a
One
year and
guy.
a half, just a
One
cape.
person.
Yeah.
And so like when it doesn't have a good PC port, then everyone destroys the game. And it's like, but the cape is really good. It's like, come on, there are aspects that are salvageable and I think are great. I do want to ask though, so I mean, this is your third game. And so you definitely have, going into like figuring out which, producers and like how the art style are going to go. Like there's some things you obviously learned, and then obviously this isn't your first rodeo. So what was it you think was probably the biggest learn or step up from, your past games to this one?
I think, definitely the measure 3 times and cut once, just general advice is really important. I think that I also learned that play testing is so important. And I think even with this one, I didn't play test enough. I did a lot more, but
Did you like have friends over?
Yeah, how'd
and,
you do
like,
that?
Hey guys,
yeah,
we're gonna
friends
play my
over,
game.
went to like gaming groups here in LA, and every time I did a play test, I learned something new and improved the game. And a lot of people,
Calibration.
yeah, exactly, because when you go through anything in your head that's kind of creative, you stop seeing the flaws sometimes.
You're in love with it.
Or you're in love with it, or you just you're filling in details that to you
Other
are
people don't
clear
have.
and they aren't. Yeah, so the playtesting thing was huge. My last game, honestly, I playtested it like twice, and then somehow I was able to raise a
good.
bunch of money, and it's good.
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of insane.
Luck, a little bit of luck, right?
A little bit of luck, yeah. And I think for me personally, I've bought plenty of games where I played them one time and I never touched them again, and I don't want that to happen. So if I send out 1,000 of these games and a few years later 10, 20 people reach out to me and say, hey, love the game, still playing it, that's a win. I want that. But I don't want it to be like it just sits on someone's shelf as a pretty object and that's the end of it.
It's cool box art.
It is pretty.
Yeah, which, nothing wrong with that. I buy lots of pretty box art games and never play them too. But I want a little more for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cool thing that my experience with board games has been like, oh, I'm playing this game. Like, this is really cool. And it's like brand new to me.
Yeah.
But then it's been around forever. And then you're like, what? And then you look at like, oh, they only developed this game and that was it. And so like, again, with your platform of like just developing a game that you wanted to make and then, not having to go to like giant, sales like events and all that stuff and having to be in big box stores and all that stuff. But it's like having it when you have a limited run and then someone like plays it like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. They're like, hey, I love this game. I just discovered it because there's not, gajillions of copies. I think those are really great things, especially when like you're playtesting it. And I like that bit that you were saying of how you might gloss over things that you already know that other people don't. So like people who never played poker, like that's something that like, oh, how is the entry level for other people? Like, and if it's easy to explain, like you're not playing poker, but then that is supplemental knowledge, not required knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely played tons of poker in college and liked it. And then I think for a lot of people, they have stayed away from poker because of the money element. I think the money element scares people, right? The stakes are literally high to play that game. But I think that people really enjoy the actual game of poker. So my point here was, let's make a game that's all the fun of poker without the money part. It's just scoring points. So if I can introduce people to poker who have never played it before through this game, then I'll be super happy.
No, that's great.
Even better, they'll like this better than poker, and this will be
World Series.
That's awesome. Casinos will start playing this instead. But yeah, it's definitely something. I think like. There's also a magic in a deck of cards, and how many thousands of games have been created with a deck of cards?
Yeah.
And if I can create one more game that can be played with a standard deck of cards and a few extra pieces, that's something that's pretty special for me.
So I mean, because I am a backer, I get
Thank you, Josh. Thank you for backing.
I get the updates.
Live sponsorship.
Yeah.
You can too.
So it does look like there are going to be some expansions. Like is that the...
Yeah, so the game has, so a normal deck of cards has 2 jokers. This game comes with 8 jokers as the standard set. And basically these jokers let you kind of mess with the game board, right? And just to kind of backtrack a little bit, the game board is 25 poker cards that are laid out into a 5x5 grid. They're moved around, people move around the grid to build their best hands. So these jokers can kind of do different things like explode the board, make things move, steal points from other people.
So one's Heath Ledger, one's Joaquin Phoenix, one's Cesar Romero. Okay.
Yeah. And so the idea for expansions for the game is via the jokers, right? So I'm going to release them in sets of 8. And every joker will do a slightly different thing. So I've built sort of this framework, and then the jokers are going to be kind of like the deck building part of the game where they do different things to mess with the game.
So you not only developed the game, you had to think beyond that of like, how can I change the game some more or add to the game?
Yeah. And it gets harder and harder, right? Because you have this constraint of I'm only working with 52 cards and it's a 5x5 grid. How much can I do? But I think that's fun. I think that's interesting is like, what kind of creative ways can you mess with the game using jokers? And the other piece is nobody ever uses the jokers in cards. So I'm making it a
give
focal
them some
point.
love.
Yeah. The jokers are going to kind of mess with stuff. Yeah.
Do you think that the idea for the expansion with the jokers, do you think that came from a mechanic standpoint or from a design standpoint? Because you're talking about making the game, you came from like, I wanted Western and Tropic combined.
That definitely came from mechanics and not wanting to feel limited by the 52 card deck. I felt like, I'm basically using the 4 different suits of cards and each suit can do a different thing. And that's great, but I felt like that's not enough. So when I realized I had these 2 extra jokers, I thought, well, why stop at 2? Let's go somewhere even, bigger than that. So that's where that got layered on. So that was a mechanics driven.
Well, and it kind of leads into like a world building.
Yeah.
Where there's different types of jokers in this island that this billionaire brought people into. And I think that's kind of cool because, one thing led to another and they both, without that answer that you gave, was kind of like, mechanics could lead into the creativity of the world building, or like the world building could bring in a new mechanic. So it's really cool how the creative process does still need the technical aspect out of it. And it just synergizes into like a brand new thing, which is dope.
And the jokers are also kind of that element of luck that are sort of optional. If people want to play this game without the jokers, they can do that. You know, it's like power-ups, right? You can play with or without power-ups, but I'm going to keep releasing new ones for people that are digging the artwork and are liking, you know, trying to play the game in a different way.
Was that a Smash Bros reference? Because
it might have been.
Because I'm a big Smash Bros fan, and I'm like, whenever I play, and everyone who knows me, who listens to the show, when they play against me, I'm like, no items, 5 stock on a flat surface. And it's going to be purely skill versus a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, have all the items and power ups. Like that's the luck.
Yeah, I want power-ups to be in other like sports, like professional sports. Like right now, it's very much skill-based. I want more power-ups, but we haven't gotten there yet. But when we have like robot football and stuff, that's going to happen.
There's like some old school games with that.
no, but real robot football.
yeah, true.
I mean, real quick, can you take us through like maybe just like the first round of like how the game plays out? Like,
yeah. So basically, imagine a 5x5 deck or stack of cards that have been set up in the middle of the table, all face up. All your standard cards in a deck, right? 2 through ace. Meanwhile, everyone is holding not 2 cards, but 3 whole cards. So in Texas Hold'em poker, for people who don't know, usually you have 2 cards. Those 2 cards act as kind of your personal whole cards, and you use those and what's on the table to make your best hand. So in Western Tropic, you have 3 because every round you will trade in one of your cards to do something.
Little Uno-y?
Little Uno-y, yeah. So each suit will do a different thing: heart, spade, diamond, and clover. Club. It's a Lucky Charms deck. They all do different things, right? So like they can move, they can steal, they can swap cards on the board. And so you have to decide which card do you want to get rid of to do something, and then which 2 will remain to give you the best hand. And so at the end of your turn, you will have a certain hand that you can create, and you'll score points based on that setup. And so every time you're trying to rack up more and more points and be the first to reach 60.
And then the poker aspect a little bit is that people are seeing what you're doing, seeing what cards you're putting. It's like, okay, they don't have that, so they probably don't have this.
Yeah, it's process. There's a little bit of hidden information in terms of, you know, what cards you're holding, but if you have a good memory, it will definitely help you. You don't know what people's jokers are, right? So that's also a hidden element as well. And you don't know what people are going to do. The other aspect that's a little bit like betting is that every player will have a player mat, and they're allowed to bet points as well. So if they think that they have the highest hand, they don't know what everyone has. If they think they have the highest hand, they can bet 5 points. And if they're right when everybody shows, they win another 5 points.
There it is.
So it's betting, but you're never taking points away from someone. It's just you trying to rack up more.
Okay.
So that's kind of the general flow of the game. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Do you suggest that people, you know, have their hand like in poker where they put it on the table and then look at it, or are you like holding it like this?
You know, as long as the other players can't see, whatever the format is, you know, if we're sitting like we are right now, kind of at the side of a table, and we can keep our cards relatively hidden from each other, it's okay.
Because I mean, I've been to some casinos and they're like, you know, no phone, you know, keep both hands up, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you treat me how you want to treat me.
When you get money.
I was just in Vegas last weekend, and I was playing poker, and of course slanging my products, and and people were using phones now. Nobody cared. What? I mean, it was an $80 table. Maybe that's why. Like if you're playing in the World Series, they probably don't want your phone out. But
I think
it was
this
pretty
was like
casual.
a $40 table. And it was like one of my friends literally just kept putting his hand in his pocket, and they're like, "Take your hand out." It's like, what?
Like you had a card hidden in there or something?
Yeah. And I was like, but this is also when we were in college. I was like, yo, we're not that good. Also, do we look like magicians? We don't have sleight of hand at all. It's like we're just here to kind of get drunk and play games. And it's like, but it was a Harrah's.
Yeah,
it was a Harrah's, and I was like, I don't even know like what kind of stakes you guys have going on right now.
So let's get into the Kickstarter started, and at the time of this recording, it is successful. Over successful.
It is,
which is fantastic.
It is funded. Yes. Very happy.
So a little bit of a rundown. So you have 2 levels?
I have 3 levels.
3 levels.
So people can buy the deck of cards by themselves, which is just $10 because people like to collect pretty cards. The full game at $25, and then the Founders Edition, which is this pretty box right here with the game in it. And that comes with the first expansion of 8 Jokers, some postcards, and then a very secret special thing that comes extra that I can't reveal, but it's pretty cool and has to do with the island in the world that inspired Western Tropic.
Full map. No, a ticket to a map. No.
Way to sell the box edition. That's really good. That's
the map on the box is inspired by a real place, and that secret prize might have to do with that real place.
Wow.
Did you just Willy Wonka everybody? Did you just golden ticket?
And then he casually goes, yeah.
There's a chocolate card factory.
So people can visit the Kickstarter by going to westerntropic.co.
Yes, .co redirects automatically to the Kickstarter for convenience, and you don't have to spell out a huge URL. But the general website is westerntropic.com. But yeah, if anyone's interested in the Kickstarter, westerntropic.co. It is fully funded, like you guys said, but the more the merrier. I want as many people as possible
Because
playing
you
the
can,
game.
based on your update that you just did at the time of this recording, you're not looking at doing stretch goals. You're looking at making the final product better.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people,
Which is a very interesting concept to be like, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. A lot of people say like, well, hey, if you guys all reach, X amount of money, I'll do this nice thing for you. And I can appreciate that. But I think for me, because I'm doing this as a labor of love and it's not meant to be like this massive for-profit endeavor, I just want to make the best game possible. So I'll keep improving the game as much as the finances of the Kickstarter allow me to do. Yeah.
And just as kind of to pull back the veil just a tiny bit, like, so the funds, obviously they go to the production, they go to artists, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then that goes towards just making it better. Like what are other things
I can, for the purposes
Onyx
of kind of
cards.
Yeah, right. They're made out of pure diamond.
Yes.
I mean, for people who are listening or watching and want to kind of understand the process, I'm happy to be transparent about it. So going into the game, right before I did the Kickstarter, I invested several $1,000s into the art because I think you want to have something to show people that is, this is a tangible thing. So it's going to cost just under $10,000 just to produce the amount of games I want. So I've invested the money into the art. The money that's going to the Kickstarter now will pay for the print run. And then that will also basically give me some extra funds at the end that I can put back into investing, more cool stuff into the game. And then also just pay back the initial investment for the art. So, I'm shooting for like breaking even. That's the goal. But if it goes higher, I want to do cool stuff and put more things out for the game.
I mean, it's just a testament in its own that it's a successful Kickstarter. And I think, honestly, I want to ask this question for our audience as well as any listeners. I know one listener specifically who plays a bunch of games, whether they're video or board, and I'm just usually jealous of his collection.
Yes.
What would you tell people? Like, I like that beginning part. You said you invest money into the art, and the art will, come out. What would you suggest as advice to anyone who's doing a Kickstarter, and also what would you suggest in a separate pool of people like building a game?
I definitely think to the point of art that it is worth investing your own money into. And the reason why is just take it from the world of branding and advertising. There's 100 people who sell the same widget, the same salad dressing, the same toilet paper, the same wine. The art sells it, right? We're all dumb people who like pretty things.
Marketing means something.
Marketing means something. So if you have the most fun game mechanic but just awful art, you're only going to appeal to people who really understand games. But most people really understand art. If something looks pretty, they'll show interest in it. So I think it's a worthwhile investment. And I understand not everybody can afford a ton of money initially on art, and that's okay. You can teach yourself design and invest time into producing beautiful art yourself if you can't pay somebody else to do it. This is a side thing for me. I have a full-time job, and so I chose to invest some of my extra funds into this. And honestly, people invest money into hobbies all the time, whether it's skiing or, sailing or horseback riding or dancing or whatever, like
satiates.
Right. Or board games, right? Like people spend thousands of dollars on their hobbies every year. So when you tell somebody you spent a couple $1,000 on making a game, at first, maybe it sounds crazy, but at the same time, like, somebody could be working on their classic car and drop $3,000 on a new transmission. And that's seen as somehow, more legitimate. So, it's just another way to spend my time. And so for me, I invest my time and my money into the games, and that's worth it. But to answer your question, I think putting some labor into artwork up front is worth it.
Yeah, instead of going to the bar $80 every time, you could save those 52 times a week or 50 times a year, and then you have a couple $1,000.
Yeah, and the other thing too is another good thing about the internet is a lot of people have done probably what you're trying to do. So do your research, learn from people's mistakes, don't repeat them, and use all the free knowledge that's available to you.
Yeah. And I mean, like, specifically, I know some people may not use like Instagram, and I know Fiverr is not normally the place anymore, but like that was a really great place to go find artists to do things like that. And like they'll definitely work with the budget that you got. So
yeah. I mean, a couple of my artists are that I didn't mention are college kids who recently graduated looking to build their portfolio. And that's often a great source for more affordable but really high quality art.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So yeah, check it out, westerntropic.co.
But also .com too.
.com for
both
kind
are
of a basic like.
They both will lead you to the same place, which is where you can give me money.
You're going to say something poetic of like, they'll lead you to the place where you need to be.
I want to keep this a really simple equation.
.com.co money.
To make the best game possible.
To make the best game possible.
That's true.
It's going into a bank account that then goes to a production company that makes pretty things that then get sent to your mailbox.
It's funny when you said like immediately with I think the lowest amount of money tier, where you just get the cards. I was like, I've seen so many YouTubers who just have a deck of cards with them and they just do all these card tricks. And it's like, he's not wrong. A lot of people just like to have cool, fancy, nice cards.
Oh, yeah. Playing cards and collectible playing cards have become a massive part of Kickstarter, in fact, as well. And it's a lot of magicians who want beautiful cards while they're doing all the tricks. It's pretty amazing. Those people are not allowed in the casinos. So, you know, yeah.
But it's funny. A lot of them do just a lot of like YouTube vlog stuff. And it's like, oh, wow. It's like, I really hope to see some of them pick this up.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Len, thank you so much for joining us and talking with us and our audience. I'm really excited.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
I'm really so excited to play the game. Maybe you'll
no pressure, Josh. It'll get to you when it's ready.
I'm really excited.
Really, tap. So the promised delivery date is February 2020, which sounds like the future, and it is.
It is.
But you know, basically the campaign will end in October, and then it takes about 3 or 4 months to get it all done, and then literally it comes on a freight boat from China. So
are you shipping it yourself, or
I will not be on the boat, guarding the cards, sitting with a slingshot.
I mean, when you get them, are you going to be shipping them yourself, or do you have like a distribution company that will be doing?
There will be a distribution company doing most of them, but I'll get a batch myself. And to answer your next question, yes, I will hand deliver your copy to you.
Oh, wow!
You heard it here.
And sign it, maybe.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I will.
maybe play it with us on Twitch.
Of course, yes.
That would be so much fun. That'd be so much fun.
6 people, you said, is still pretty optimal?
Yeah. Let's do 6.
Okay.
Ooh.
I like that. By 2020, we'll have like a whole new studio and all that stuff.
This is going to be awesome.
Beers.
Well, everybody at home, thank you so much for stopping by, listening. Do check out Western Tropic. Like I said, westerntropic.co. Give this man money to make a beautiful game. Beautiful game. But yeah, if you're new to Nerd On, you can check us out. Nerdon.tv has all the information about what it is that we do. We have lots of podcasts that we do now. We have articles, we have videos, a whole bunch of stuff, but do check that out.
Do you have anything to plug yourself other than Western Tropic?
If anyone wants to connect with me, ask me questions, hurl insults, seek the meaning of life, I am at Len Kendall on Instagram and Twitter. And seriously would love to connect with anybody.
Wait, I can hurl insults at you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Only on Twitter? Any Instagram or?
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter.
So we can slide into the DMs.
Yeah.
That's all I want to know.
Yeah, I'm also on the Facebook and LinkedIn.
Snapchat?
No. I don't know how to use
just
it.
went, no.
I'm over 20.
It's a safer spot to not be there.
Yeah.
Well, you know the drill. As always,
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.